No one in the neighborhood suspected a thing. To everyone else, she was just a sweet, frail old lady who smiled behind her curtains and nodded politely when you passed by. But one night, a flicker of light from her garden revealed a secret so strange, so unsettling, that I couldn't look away. What I saw would change everything I thought I knew about my quiet little street. Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I moved into my new apartment 3 weeks ago, craving a fresh start. After a messy breakup and a job that seemed to drain me more than it fulfilled me, I thought a quiet street lined with maple trees and neat little gardens would be the perfect escape. I spent my mornings sipping coffee by the window, watching joggers pass and kids chase each other across the sidewalks. The rhythm of my ordinary life felt safe, predictable, comforting in its dullness. And then there was Mrs. Whitmore. She lived 2 doors down in a cottage that looked like it had been plucked straight out of a postcard. White paint flaked off the shutters, and roses clambered up the front trellis in messy perfection. Every time I saw her on the street, she wore a warm smile and a floppy sun hat, as if she had stepped out of another century. I admit, I admired her. There was something in the way she carried herself that made me want to peek into her world. During the day, her garden was charming. Lavender, marigolds, and a neat row of tomatoes lined the path. At night, though, I began to notice little things that didn't make sense. Shadows moved behind the hedges in patterns that felt almost deliberate. Sometimes, the faint glint of lights flickered from the garden as if 1,000 tiny candles were being rearranged, and I could swear I heard whispered murmurs, though I never caught her talking to anyone. I tried to chalk it up to imagination. After all, late nights alone make ordinary things feel eerie. But curiosity gnawed at me, and on a night when the sky was dark and the wind had dropped to a ghostly silence, I found myself standing at my window, staring down at her garden. That's when I saw it. A figure, tall, moving with a precision that made my heart thump, appeared between the rows of marigolds. My first thought was, she has help, but as the figure turned, I realized the shadow wasn't human. There were shapes I couldn't quite name, forms that moved with a strange, otherworldly fluidity. My breath caught in my throat. I pressed closer to the glass, feeling my pulse slam against my ears. The garden, which had seemed so tame under the morning sun, now felt like the threshold of some hidden world. And then, right in the middle of the rose arch, the earth shifted, almost as if it was breathing, and I saw something gleam, something metallic, delicate, and utterly out of place. My eyes widened, and a chill ran down my spine as I whispered to myself, "What on earth?" Before I could even comprehend it, the ground seemed to move again, and I realized with a jolt that I was about to witness something I could never unsee. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the garden. My mind raced with every possibility, none of them comforting. The metallic gleam seemed to pulse, catching the moonlight like it had a heartbeat of its own. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but my voice felt trapped, swallowed by the silence of the night. For a moment, I considered that maybe it was just an elaborate decoration, some eccentric hobby of Mrs. Whitmore's. But then the shapes shifted again, moving in patterns far too deliberate to be plants or ornaments. Shadows stretched and curled around the rose trellis, as if alive, and I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "This is impossible," I whispered, pressing my hand against the window, feeling the cold glass bite into my skin. Curiosity won over fear. I had to see it closer. Silently, I slipped on my sneakers, grabbed my jacket, and stepped into the cool night. The street was empty, hushed under a blanket of stars. Every creak of the pavement under my feet made my heart hammer faster, but I couldn't stop. I reached the edge of Mrs. Whitmore's garden and crouched behind the hydrangea bushes, trying to make sense of the scene. The light that had drawn me here wasn't from a lantern or candle. It shimmered in the air itself, hovering above the soil in soft, golden motes. And then I saw it, a circle of small, intricate objects arranged with precision around the rose arch, glinting like tiny mirrors. My breath caught. They looked almost ceremonial. I froze. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying a faint, metallic tinkle that made my skin prickle. I could see Mrs. Whitmore now, or at least someone in her shape. She moved gracefully, almost floating, and her hands worked in perfect rhythm, placing each object with deliberate care. But it wasn't just her. From the shadows, shapes emerged, thin, elongated figures that bent and twisted in impossible angles. My heart lurched, but I couldn't look away. The golden light seemed to converge on the rose arch, forming a radiant, shimmering pool. And then I saw it, what the light was centered on, a small, intricate device, unlike anything I had ever seen, glimmering as if it contained its own pulse of life. My mind reeled. Machines? Magic? Or something else entirely? Before I could process it, a branch snapped behind me. My entire body jolted. Mrs. Whitmore's head turned sharply, her eyes locking onto mine. But it wasn't fear in her gaze. It was calm, almost knowing. And then she smiled. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. She knew I was watching. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something in that smile rooted me to the spot. It was warm, familiar, yet utterly terrifying at the same time. And then she whispered, though no sound reached me directly, "I see you." The golden light flared, brighter than the moon, and the shapes in the shadows writhed and shimmered as if alive. I felt a pull, a magnetic tug toward the rose arch, like it was calling me. My knees threatened to buckle, but I couldn't move. I was trapped between fear and fascination, and one thought consumed me. I have to know what this is. And just as I took a step forward, the device pulsed again, and the ground beneath it seemed to ripple, sending a shockwave of light and energy straight toward me. The shockwave of light hit me like a sudden gust of wind, knocking me off balance. I tumbled onto the damp grass, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. For a moment, everything was a blur of gold and shadow, and I could barely breathe. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the light dimmed, leaving me staring at something I could hardly comprehend. The garden had changed. The roses and marigolds were still there, but now the ground around the archway was etched with delicate, glowing patterns, like an intricate map written in golden fire. The device at the center pulsed gently, almost like it was breathing. And the shapes, the ones I had first thought were shadows, stood perfectly still, frozen like statues, their elongated forms shimmering faintly under the moonlight. Mrs. Whitmore stepped closer to me, her movements calm, deliberate, entirely unlike the frail old lady I thought I knew. "You shouldn't have come here," she said softly, but there was no anger in her voice. Instead, there was sorrow, and something deeper, almost pleading. "But now that you're here, there's no turning back." I struggled to my feet, my knees trembling. What? What is all this? My voice sounded small, fragile against the vastness of the garden. She smiled, but it was a different smile, less warm, more secretive. "This garden," she said, sweeping her hand over the glowing patterns, "is not just a garden. It's a bridge. a bridge to preserve what should not be forgotten, what must be protected. My mind spun. Bridge? Protected? Preserved? I wanted to ask more, but the air itself seemed charged, almost humming with energy. The device in the center pulsed again, and I felt a subtle vibration beneath my feet. It was like the garden itself was alive, watching me, testing me. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw movement. The elongated figures shifted slightly, tilting their heads toward me, and I realized they weren't statues at all. They were guardians, silent, patient, and impossibly ancient. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted, as if the garden itself refused to let me leave. Mrs. Whitmore approached the rose arch and bent down to touch the device. Light flared again, enveloping her hands in a soft glow. When she looked back at me, her eyes glimmered with a strange mix of pride and sadness. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way," she said. "But now that you have, I have to trust you." "Trust me? With what?" My voice wavered, part fear, part awe. She stepped closer, and I could see the lines of her face in the moonlight. Lines that spoke of years of hidden labor, secret knowledge, and burdens too heavy to share. "With the garden," she whispered, "with the secret I've kept for decades, and with the choice that will change your life forever." The golden light from the device flared higher, casting long shadows that stretched toward me like fingers reaching into my chest. I realized, with a shiver, that the sweet old lady I had admired so innocently was not what she seemed. She was something else entirely, something powerful, ancient, and terrifyingly human. I took a step back, and my foot caught on something soft. My heart sank as I looked down. Nestled in the grass, half buried in shadows, was a small, delicate object, one that I recognized instantly. My hands trembled as I reached for it. It was the key. My fingers closed around the small object, and a shiver ran up my spine. The key felt impossibly warm, almost pulsing in my hand, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. I looked up at Mrs. Whitmore, whose eyes softened in a way that made the fear I'd felt moments ago twist into curiosity, and something else, something almost like reverence. "This key," she said gently, "is more than it seems. It opens what the world has forgotten, what must be protected from those who would misuse it. My garden isn't just flowers, Olivia. It's a sanctuary, a guardian of things that could change everything if they fell into the wrong hands." I swallowed hard, still staring at the glowing patterns etched into the ground. But why me? I'm just me. I'm not— "You are exactly why," she interrupted. Her voice was calm, unwavering. "Sometimes the right person finds the right secret at the right time. You have curiosity, courage, and a heart that doesn't run from the unknown. That's rare. That's why you're here now." I felt the weight of her words, heavy yet exhilarating. The fear inside me hadn't disappeared. It had shifted into something more alive, more urgent. My ordinary life, the life I had thought was safe and predictable, suddenly felt meaningless compared to the truth in front of me. Mrs. Whitmore extended her hand toward me, and I stepped forward, instinctively feeling the pull of the garden's energy. "Do you understand what it means to take this responsibility?" she asked. I hesitated, glancing at the glowing devices, the guardians silently observing, and then at the rose arch, radiant under the moonlight. I think I do," I said, my voice trembling, but filled with determination. "It's not just about guarding something, It's about choosing to protect it, even if it changes everything about my life." She nodded, a small, proud smile curling her lips. "Exactly. From tonight, you are part of this. You are part of something bigger than you ever imagined, something beautiful and dangerous and alive. And if you accept it, your life will never be ordinary again." I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle over me. The fear hadn't gone, it never would, but beneath it, something stronger had begun to grow. Purpose. A fierce, exhilarating purpose I had never known I was capable of. With a quiet resolve, I held the key close and looked at Mrs. Whitmore. "I'll do it. I'll help protect it, whatever it takes." For the first time that night, her smile was unguarded, warm, and real. The golden light of the garden pulsed softly around us, almost like a heartbeat matching my own, and I felt an unspoken bond form between us, a silent promise, ancient and alive, that we would guard this secret together. The garden no longer seemed eerie or frightening. It was alive, yes, but it was beautiful and full of possibilities. And for the first time since my heartbreak, since my life had felt so ordinary and constrained, I knew I had been given a second chance. Not to run, not to hide, but to step into a life I never could have imagined. As the moonlight settled over the rose arch, I realized one undeniable truth. Sometimes, the people who seem ordinary, the neighbors who smile behind their curtains, are the keepers of worlds you could never guess exist. And now, I was one of them.